Wood Hughes was a manufacturer of coin and sterling silver flatware and hollowware based in New York, New York from the years 1833 to the year 1899. Wood Hughes is considered to be a prestige maker, with many of their items being highly sought after by collectors as well as museums from around the world. In this video, we are going to talk about 7 main categories, which include 1. History and background, 2. Medallion patterns, 3. Leaf designs, 4. Hollowware items, 5. Jewelry, 6. Aesthetic and unusual design styles, and then 7. Finally, a complete silver flatware pattern guide of all the patterns produced. In 1833, William Gale Sr. formed a partnership with Jacob Wood and Jasper H. Hughes under the name Gale, Wood, and Hughes. Wood and Hughes had both served apprenticeships under Gale, and in 1845 they left the company to form their own manufacturing operation. The new company would be known as Wood and Hughes. Jacob Wood and Jasper H. Hughes remained in the partnership until Jacob Wood's death in the year 1850. Stephen T. Frappry, who had previously been employed by the firm, entered into the partnership in the year 1850. Jasper H. Hughes retired in 1856. After the original founders were no longer with the manufacturer, various other members of the Wood and Hughes families were admitted into the partnership. 2 primary members of the family who were admitted into the firm in the 1860s were Charles W. Wood, who was the brother of founder Jacob Wood, and then there was also Dixon G. Hughes, who was the son of founder Jasper Hughes. These 2 family members, along with their chief designer Charles F. Richards, helped lead the company into an era of prosperity between the years 1860 and the year 1890. They had a little bit of a bump in the road during the Civil War when they lost most of their southern accounts. However, the subsequent northern economic boom after that enabled the company to both recover and prosper. Unfortunately, in the year 1891, there was a disastrous fire which resulted in the firm's loss of records, models, and patterns. The company never fully recovered from this blow, and in the year 1899, the partners decided to sell out to the firm of Graff and Washburn, and then after that, there was no longer any production of Wood and Hughes products. One of Wood and Hughes' greatest legacies that they contributed to the antique silver world was their production of medallion head silver pieces. These pieces incorporated the use of usually a shape of an oval that had a bust or a head of somebody famous or of some mythical or historical figure inside of it. They were modeled similarly to how Italian gold shell cameo jewelry is made. The Wood and Hughes designers created several different variations and patterns within this category, and we are going to explore those right now. This first medallion pattern made by Wood and Hughes is called Medallion Twist. It was made in the year 1863. As you can see here, the stem of the handle has a very twisted handle that goes all the way around and then leads up to the medallion portion at the end. This is one of the only 2 Wood and Hughes medallion patterns that actually offers a full line, including spoons, forks, soup spoons, and other pieces, where you can actually assemble a real place setting and set your table with it. This pattern is what is known as a multi-motif pattern, where basically the body of the pattern is the same on each piece, but it does vary with the medallion head. Each medallion head on a different type of piece has a different depiction. And these basically show different figures from ancient Greco-Roman civilizations. The next Wood Hughes medallion pattern we are going to talk about is called Diana. Diana was the ancient Roman goddess of the hunt, the moon, and nature. This pattern is a single motif pattern which only has the one depiction of Diana basically on every single piece that was ever made with no variation. This pattern is available in a full line including knives, forks, salad forks, teaspoons, soup spoons, and quite a variety of serving pieces. This third Wood Hughes medallion pattern that we are showcasing today is called the Warrior pattern. It's not a full line pattern and mostly just has serving pieces, with the majority of them just depicting one warrior that looks like he could have come straight out of the movie of Gladiator. One variation we found in the pattern does depict General Agamemnon. The pattern's a little bit different, but if you look carefully at the stem, you can see that they both have the same beading pattern. Here we have the Wood Hughes medallion beaded high relief face pattern. If you're a coin collector, you're probably familiar with the St. Gaudens 1907 high relief $20 gold piece. This flatware pattern is very similar to that, with its heavy gauge and deeply struck depth, as well as its almost three-dimensional look. Her face, according to Google AI, is Egyptian revival. However, when I take a look at her, she looks a little more Greco-Roman to me. This particular pattern is highly sought after and typically retails for between $100 to $300 per troy ounce. It's only available in a very narrow selection of pie servers, sugar sifters, berry spoons, and maybe a handful of a few other types of pieces. This next Wood Hughes pattern is called Medallion Ultra High Relief Bust. The previous face pattern we showed had some high relief, but compared to this one, it pales in comparison. This pair of napkin rings in the pattern are just absolutely amazing. They are just so well made with the craftsmanship and quality. They're not quite 3D because they do have a flat back, but they're almost there. I'm only aware of a few pieces available in this pattern, as in oyster ladles, soup ladles, napkin rings, and some berry spoons. Regarding these figures displayed on these pieces, I'm not 100% sure who these Art Nouveau women or these Renaissance male figures are, but if anybody out there recognizes them, please put your notes in the comments section on the video. This last Wood Hughes medallion pattern that we are going to take a look at is called Homeric. Wood Hughes was one of the earliest manufacturers to have ever developed a medallion-themed silver flatware pattern. However, a competitor of theirs just down the street in Brooklyn named George W. Schiebler & Co. pioneered a new version of the medallion pattern, which they called Homeric. This new Homeric pattern, named after the famous Greek poet Homer, who lived in the 8th century BC, now expanded the pattern not only from just within inside the oval circle that it used to be on pieces, but it actually expanded the theme and pattern all the way through the entire piece. So instead of seeing an ancient Roman or Greek face paired with an old style Victorian silver theme, now the pieces would be decorated completely with many different ancient themes like cracks, hammering, elements that would be on ancient Greek or Roman architecture. And so basically, the Homeric pattern really brought to life more the ancient themes in general. The Homeric pattern became very, very popular, and many of the competitors of George W. Schiebler and Co. tried to make their own version, with some being more successful than others. Wood and Hughes was one of the very successful ones that imitated it, and not only imitated it, but they created their own unique version. The original Schiebler version had the use of many Greek words onto their pieces, but in the Wood and Hughes, they actually incorporated more of the Greek alphabet and letters, and you can see that on many of their pieces. Value-wise, the George W. Schiebler versions are still going to probably be worth more money than anybody else's. However, the Wood and Hughes versions are still really nice, and pieces that are extraordinarily decorated, or ones that have like a sandblasted hole in it or have some over-the-top ancient theme, these pieces are probably going to be pretty close in value to any of the best George W. Schiebler versions. This piece is another medallion pattern made by the Wood and Hughes company. I'm throwing him in here as a bonus because I'm not sure if he's just a one-off piece or if it's an actual pattern. It's definitely a hybrid, with the top portion looking more like the Homeric pattern, but when you look at the bottom portion, it looks like it's a Victorian themed pattern. If anyone out there knows more about this piece, please feel free to leave your notes in the comments section of the video. This next category of silver by Wood and Hughes that we are going to explore are their leaf designs. This leaf pattern is three-dimensional from front to back. It basically has a depiction of a grape leaf and vine that goes up and down the stem of the flatware piece. The craftsmanship and metalworking techniques like chasing and hand application processes that it took to make this piece are just absolutely astounding. The pattern comes in about 10 different variations of different designs, mostly where the leaf is of different shapes. As for value, these pieces generally retail between $100 to $300 per troy ounce. This next Wood and Hughes silver pattern is called Lily of the Valley. I'm including it here in this section because the Lily of the Valley pattern is very, very similar to the Leaf 3D pattern. It too is three-dimensional and also has a very, very high quality of craftsmanship and hand detail work put into making it. These handmade leaf and flower designs made by Wood and Hughes are definitely some of their most artfully made pieces in their entire collection. Before I move on to the next section, I want to take a quick minute and explain the difference between coin silver and sterling silver. If an item is identified as coin silver, that means it's 90% pure silver with 10% copper. If the item is identified as sterling silver, that means it's 92.5% silver and 7.5% copper. In the United States before the year 1865, the standard was coin silver, but after that, the standard became sterling silver. When the British first set up colonies in North America, the silversmiths of that time did not have very much access to silver, so they instead took coinage that was being used, which was 90% silver, and started to use that to make their silver items, and thus that is what coined the term coin silver. The Wood and Hughes Company was established in 1833 and went to 1899, so about half of their silver made was made from 90% pure coin silver, and the other half was made from sterling silver. Their sterling silver pieces will be marked with the word sterling. Their coin silver pieces will be either marked with a 900 over 1,000, which is the 90% numerical equivalent of coin silver, or a lot of the pieces are usually unmarked with having only the W and H mark. The next category of wooden hues that we are going to explore is their coin and sterling silver hollowware pieces. They made a pretty broad selection of hollowware pieces, including coffee and tea sets, candy dishes, fruit bowls, goblets, gravy boats, you name it, they probably made it. Their most predominant theme in the silver hollowware manufacturing was their medallion patterns. The medallions would vary in shape and size and style, and also unusual positions sometimes on the sides. Here we have a beautiful mug with a gorgeous depiction, I think, of Athena. Wood Hughes' master craftsmanship is very evident on this beautiful shell bowl. Look at the beautiful chasing work on this bowl. It's very, very detailed, very gorgeous. Here's another gorgeous bowl that's decorated with a leaf style, and the detail work on this is just so realistic. It almost looks like they're real leaves. Wood Hughes was also very prolific in producing match safes, also known as Vesta cases. These were very popular in the late 19th century and are still very widely collectible today by cigar collectors. These typically sell for between $100 to $400 a piece. It just depends on how ornate they are. Another popular hollowware item that Wood Hughes manufactured was napkin rings. Most of these were decorated in a classic Victorian style that reflected the trends of the late 19th century. This one has a beautiful bird on it, which reflects the influences of the Japanese culture that was starting to trend in the late 19th century. Here's a really pretty one that's in the higher price range. It's decorated in a Japanese aesthetic style. It's just absolutely gorgeous. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, many major museums display Wood Hughes pieces at their museums. Here's an example found at the Dallas Museum of Art. This is a stunning gravy boat that depicts the Greek god Poseidon or the Roman god of Neptune. The gravy boat has a nautical theme with a rope border, one of which you would find similar to being on a sailing vessel. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York also displays Wood Hughes silver pieces. Just take a look at this absolutely amazing medallion vase that they have on display. The next category of Wood Hughes silver that we are going to review is their jewelry. There's really not much of it around, and what little you can find is very, very expensive, as in the range of $300 to $600 per troy ounce. Wood Hughes jewelry is another category where it was either copied, imitated, or inspired from the famous George W. Schiebler firm, which was just down the street in Brooklyn, New York. Schiebler pioneered the Homeric pattern, which was inspired by ancient Greek and Roman cultures, and that is basically the majority of all of the Wood Hughes jewelry that we've ever seen out there. This first piece of Wood Hughes jewelry we are looking at is a classic Homeric design inspired by George W. Schiebler, with 5 different Greco-Roman medallion heads adorning it. This Wood Hughes piece is a variation on the theme, so to speak, because it features their Diana pattern mixed with a Homeric classic design on the sides. This last piece of Wood Hughes Homeric jewelry that we are looking at is my very favorite. If you look carefully on this piece, you'll see the Greek letters of Omega, Alpha, and Beta, and seeing Greek letters on the Homeric jewelry pieces made by Wood Hughes is one of their distinguishing features that you will not see on other manufacturers that produce pieces of Homeric jewelry. I fell in love with this piece when I saw it on eBay when I was preparing for this video, and I actually paid about $800 per troy ounce, which I don't know if that's too much or not, but it is what it is. Wood Hughes made several one-off and limited production patterns that had unusual designs as well as aesthetic Japanese and Asian influences. This Japanese bird design is a good example of how when commerce opened up to Japan and China in the late Victorian era, that many of the pieces of silver that were designed then were somewhat influenced by this new influx from culture coming from these places. These mixed metal demitasse spoons are also a good example of how Wood Hughes started to incorporate the Japanese aesthetic style into some of its lines. Here's another aesthetic pattern that shows beautiful leaves and flowers, and it's set on a gorgeous gilt background. This no-name pattern here is a classic repoussé type pattern which shows many ornate flowers, scroll work, and other interesting details. Here's another Wood Hughes one-off pattern that has a Chinese lotus style to it. This amazing fish or serpent style piece is absolutely incredible. Look at all the hand chasing and detail work put into this piece. This last no-name or one-off pattern piece that we're going to look at by Wood Hughes is a classic colonial hammered pattern. If by chance you know the name of some of these unusual patterns, please feel free to leave your notes in the comments section of the video. This final section is a Wood Hughes silver pattern guide, which includes their 24 mainline silver patterns. I already covered the medallion and leaf patterns, so I'm not showing those here. If you have a Wood Hughes pattern that you don't know the name of and that you are looking to identify, hopefully our video guide here will help you figure out what you have. In the meantime, while you are browsing through the patterns, I would like to tell you about the Silver Museum LLC and how we are very strong buyers of all of your silver. We especially, of course, love all Wood Hughes silver that was featured in the video, as well as many of the George W. Schiebler patterns that we showed as well. We also buy all the other major brands like Reed & Barton, Gorham, Toll, Wallace, Tiffany, George Jensen, Buccellati, and many others. So if you have some silver that you are looking to sell, let's say you inherited some silver, or you have just a smaller house now and want to downsize, we are very, very strong buyers for any antique silver, rare silver, and even more scrappier or common patterns. So all we need you to do is send us in a list of the items you have, along with some photographs. And after we get that information, we'll be happy to send you our offers, usually within about 48 to 72 hours. You can send that information to our email address, which is Greg, spelled Greg, at silvermuseum.org, or you could also text us at 813-789-4734. You can call us as well. We especially love buying larger flatware services or groups of jewelry that were accumulated over years, or even decades of time. However, we can still just buy handfuls of pieces or even just one piece. So feel free to send in the information no matter what you have. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching the video and that you learned a lot about the Wood Hughes Silver Company. Please do hit like for us if you get a chance, because that will help the video become a little bit more distributed, and that'll help more people find out about this incredible manufacturing company. If by chance we omitted something or you catch an error, then please do put your notes in the comments section of the video. Well, thanks again for watching the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Yes, we are local here in beautiful Salt Lake City, so if you are local and would like to make an appointment, please do contact us. Otherwise, we can handle your transactions through the mail. Enjoy these bonus clips, and thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.